Welcome to the Trip Tales podcast with me, Kelsey Graves. Let's jump into a new episode exploring a vacation destination that you'll want all the details about. Hey everyone, welcome back to Trip Tales. Today we have an exciting episode because I know for a fact that this destination is on a lot of our bucket lists. Today we are going to be talking about Disney's Aulani Resort in Hawaii with my guest, Lake. I am thrilled to have Lake on the podcast today because I actually discovered him and his show, the DCL podcast, DCL as in Disney Cruise Line, when I was planning our Disney cruise. If you need to know anything about any Disney cruises, I'm talking any ship, cruises in the Caribbean, Europe, Alaska, and on, the DCL podcast is where it's at. So welcome, Lake. Thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me on. Excited to talk about this trip, and thank you for the introduction and the inclusion of our podcast. We have a good time over there talking about Disney Cruise Line as well as other Disney adjacent travel, ABD, and other cruises as well. So check it out if you are so inclined.
I start every episode with a rapid fire get to know you. So tell everyone where you live, what you do, and about your family.
So I live in Florida. I'm about 40 minutes outside of the Orlando area, nice and close to Disney. It is just me, my wife, and our dog. So pretty easy for us to travel in some of those less easily travelable times for those with children, which is nice for a trip like we're going to talk about today. I actually work in grocery. I work for Publix.
Love
so
Publix.
That is my day job here. Lots of fun hurricane things happening recently. So it's been a little wild. And now we got the holidays coming up.
Yeah. And then you also co-host the DCL podcast as well, which is so fun to listen to. Okay. I did an episode a while back on Disney's Vero Beach and Hilton Head Island resorts. And in that episode, we talked about how those resorts really started as DVC resorts and that DVC members kind of get first dibs on rooms. And so rooms for non-DVC people can be hard to come by. Is Aulani similar in this way, or is there more availability for non-DVC folks?
I think that really all depends on the time of year you're looking to travel. Typically with the DVC resorts, they do open up first to your DVC members. I believe for Aulani, they do have a certain amount of cash reserved, but they are really looking to sell you on DVC once you're there, if you are on that cash side, or if you're just looking to add on points. But then, of course, if you buy in at Aulani, you have 11 months early to book. If not, you have 9 months. Again, really, your availability there, even as a DVC member, can be pretty competitive if you're looking for those peak times like summer and Christmas. Again, we went in September, so it was much easier to get availability. And it also can depend on the room type, which is a general DVC issue. The larger the room, typically the easier it is because the more expensive it is. But those value studios will typically book up pretty fast regardless of when you're traveling.
And you guys are DVC members, correct?
Yes and no. My mother is a DVC member. She likes to say that it is a family contract, and we do very well take advantage of it, but I will typically not claim that we are DVC members because my name is not associated with it. But she did want to do a little bank and borrowing of points to book this trip. It was 2 milestone birthdays, mine as well as my mother's in the family. So she said, let's go and do a big trip. We were already going halfway because we were going to be in Disneyland for a Run Disney Race weekend. We said, let's just go ahead and make the rest of the flight out there and make a week of it.
Okay, got it. So if I don't think a ton of my listeners are DVC members, so probably their best bet would be to work with like a Disney planner, because I feel like Disney planners kind of have their eye on when those rooms are opening. You said 11 months in advance if you are DVC. Do you happen to know how far in advance you can book if you're not DVC?
I actually do not.
Okay, so maybe, yeah, you guys, I have lots of Disney planners in my arsenal just because people have been on the podcast and people always message me. So if you need one, just DM me, but there are obviously plenty out there, as people know. So let's get into the trip. How did you guys get there? Hawaii is quite a ways away from Florida.
Yeah, so like I said, we already had halfway booked because we were going to Disneyland originally for a kind of long weekend. And we said, hey, let's just take the next week of that and move it into a Hawaii trip. We did end up just looking for different values, flying on 3 different airlines throughout the week of that travel. But we flew from Tampa to SNA, which is like the Anaheim area airport. And then we had Ubered up to LAX to go LAX to Hawaii because there were just more options there. And then getting back, we just did Hawaii to LAX, layover LAX to Tampa airport.
Got it. I like the idea of coupling Disneyland with this trip for a lot of people because if you don't live on the West Coast, people don't get to Disneyland as much. And that kind of can break up the trip a bit, spend a few nights there, explore Disneyland, and then go on to Hawaii. So I really like that idea. Where did you guys stay at Disneyland?
We stayed at the Disneyland Hotel. It works for us pretty well. We were there for an inaugural race weekend. My wife and I have a YouTube channel that's pretty centered around the Run Disney running community. So we wanted to be out there for that. I will say we actually probably would not tie a Disneyland trip to it again in
Okay, good to
favor of
know.
adding more time in Hawaii. And we can circle back around to that at the end and talk about why. But again, we don't regret it. We just wish we had more time in Hawaii when it came down to it.
Got it. How many nights were you guys, and I'm saying it right, Aulani, right?
Yeah.
Okay, how many nights were you guys at Aulani?
We were there for 4 nights. We did
Okay.
Monday through Friday. My sister did come in a day early, so she was there for 5 nights.
Okay, got it. So you fly into Honolulu, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And then how did you guys get from the airport to the resort?
So we had elected to rent a car at the airport. One of the nice things, if you book DVC, regardless of if you go the rental side of DVC or you have your own points, is you get free parking at DVC resorts, which includes Aulani. It was a better use of our money to rent the car at the airport and then take advantage of the free parking. Aulani does have a car rental service there. It tends to be a little more expensive. And to get those cars each day, there's typically a line pretty early. So we just figured it would be more cost effective as well. If you're planning on using any sort of Uber or Lyft, the prices can be quite surged at times. You can get there and back as low as $20 or $30. We had some friends who had a layover in Honolulu because they're pilots and they wanted to come see us, but the Uber trip was like $70 one way at one
Yeah.
point, and we said no, that's not worth it.
Yeah. For listeners, if you're not DVC members, there are websites, and is it Mike's DVC? What is that website where you can buy the points and like still get a DVC room?
So there is a number of websites. I am certainly not affiliated with any of them. I believe
Okay.
there is a Mike's DVC.
Yeah.
DVCrental.com, I believe, is a pretty popular one. And I believe they're like one of the bigger ones. They're accompanied with like selling resale DVC and stuff. So just do your research and know there are also people who will sell like booked rooms through Facebook groups and stuff. That is obviously your own risk and discretion.
Yeah.
And you can typically find on some of those rental sites, they have guaranteed rates, kind of similar to a guaranteed rate on a cruise or another hotel where it's like a preset of nights, but you can typically get a good deal if you have the flexibility for that.
Yeah, I went down that rabbit hole on our last Disney trip, and I didn't end up booking it because my husband was a little like, I'm not sure if this is legit, but I have had people on the podcast that have used those websites, both of the ones you mentioned, and have had lovely trips. So it is worth looking into if you want a specific time, specific nights. It does seem on the up and up and legit, and that's just a way to kind of get into some of those rooms if you can't find them outside of DVC points. But that is cool to know that the parking's free if you book through DVC points. It's also cool to know that you can rent a car on property if you were just going to go explore one day, just to know that you have that option. I feel like that's kind of rare to be able to rent a car on property.
Yeah, I think for Hawaii, it makes sense because for a lot of what you're going to want to do, it will require some sort of drive and sometimes further than they're going to be willing to shuttle. There are plenty of closer excursion type companies that will also come and pick up from that Ko'olina area. So you can do things without a car, but at some point to do, I think everything that's going to be on most people's Hawaii bucket lists, I think it makes sense to have a vehicle.
Yeah. How far was it, like approximately from the airport to get to Aulani? Hey, Trip Tales listeners, I'll keep this short. If you're loving the podcast, leaving a review or buying me a coffee is the quickest way to show your support, and it will ensure that these amazing trip stories keep coming. Leave a review wherever you are listening to this podcast, or buy me a coffee at the link in the show notes, and I'll literally do a happy dance when it comes through. Okay, back to the show.
It definitely can depend on the time of day. When we got in, we got pretty lucky and it was maybe a 25-minute drive. It's easy in the fact that there's really only two main highways in Hawaii. There's the H1 and I think it's the H2, and you
That's
basically take
easy.
the H1 all the way to the Ko'olina area and then you're there.
Nice. Well, that's good to know that it can be pretty efficient to get there. So, what were your first impressions of the resort upon arriving, and did it live up to your expectations?
For sure. So I think I had pretty high expectations for Aulani and Hawaii in general. I had been told that, it is one of the best Disney and DVC resorts overall. And I will say it pretty much lived up to that hype and that expectation. There are definitely some caveats and asterisks with that, but it is a beautiful resort. That Ko'olina area has quite a few luxury style resorts. It's right next to a Four Seasons, and it is definitely the most intriguing looking, like aesthetically wise, and just like most beautiful. And it's very lush and green. There's lots of trees and shrubbery within the area. It's just an absolutely beautiful resort, as well as the actual inside the lobby area. So it is quite stunning driving up to it. You can very much tell from a distance that is the Aulani Resort.
Amazing. Yeah, I'd love to hear what the lobby is like because I had read that Disney Imagineers worked with locals to make sure that it really had a lot of that like true Hawaiian native vibe.
Yeah, funny enough, we didn't go through the lobby until like the third day because
How is that possible?
my sister had checked us in, so the parking goes in somewhere else.
Funny.
But yeah, finally, when we made time, I was like, we need to go check out the lobby. It is very different from any other like hotel lobby because it's not just the walk in and here's the check in. The check in is like around the corner. It's very much like here's this big, open, nice, high vaulted room. And then it leads out onto the balcony. And you can basically see all of the center of the resort because basically the towers kind of circle around the resort and then all of the fun stuff is down in the center. So it really kind of guides you towards the fun and the beauty of it rather than just here's your check-in.
Yeah. Is it one of those open air lobbies where it's all just like super tropical feeling?
Yes, I wouldn't say it's super open air, but the balcony section there is open. But yeah, it is. It's very light and bright in there. They've got nice, again, high ceilings that are glass. So it is, again, very stunning walking in.
Okay, well, that was awesome that you guys had your sister already there to check you in and everything. So tell us about the room you booked and what your room was like.
So we had booked a one bedroom DVC villa. We wanted the kitchen to be able to cook a couple meals. Again, we had the car so we could go do some grocery shopping there pretty easily. And the room was pretty good. I will say it still had the traditional Disney pull-out couch. Those are a little bit dated. That was where my wife and I were. It was fine. We slept fine. I wouldn't want to stay on it again for our next trip, but I would love to see them go to that Disney style trundle bed that they've put in most of their other deluxe DVC resorts. But otherwise, we love the room. It's beautiful. It fits into the theme of the resorts. We didn't have any sort of special view. We pretty much just looked over at the Four Seasons Tower across from us. But room hacking at Aulani is a big thing where there are certain rooms in lower categories that still offer you nicer views. And that was a whole other world that I just did not research or care to spend the time to research into. But if you are all about getting value for a better viewed room, there is a whole list of different rooms you can basically request that will give you a better view without the premium price.
Interesting. And I'm sure you can find all of that stuff in like Alani Facebook groups. That's where I've learned recently, like if I'm planning a trip anywhere, honestly, like I'm planning a spring break trip to New York City. My daughter's turning 13 and we're going to kind of do the whole New York City thing. And I found this Facebook group traveling to New York City with kids, and there's like 200,000 people in it. And the amount of stuff that you glean from these groups, like what's the best Broadway show for kids under 13? What's the best restaurants? It's like my whole trip can be planned through these Facebook groups. It's unbelievable.
There is no shortage of that for Aulani. Just like any Disney experience, there are tons and tons of groups. And of course, there are a couple larger key ones, but any sort of like Aulani group on Facebook with a couple thousand people will probably get you the information. Something else that is interesting about the Aulani resort is due to the way the flights work into and out of Hawaii, typically there are morning flights and there are evening flights, and you may spend time at the resort either after you've checked out or before you can check in. They have like public rooms that include like areas to change and stuff so you can enjoy the resort. And a lot of times people will leave extras from the resort, whether it's like Tide Pods or things like soap or basically like your little travel essential sunscreen that they may not want to take back with them. And a lot of times in those groups, they'll post like, hey, I'm leaving this in, I forget what they call the rooms, but I'm leaving this in the public room. Like someone come and take it for your trip.
Yeah, I've seen those in some of the Disney groups I'm in. Like I'm in a Polynesian group because that's where we stayed most recently, and it was such a lovely resort. But people will say like, "Hey, I'm leaving these 3 bags of groceries out outside of room so and so. If anybody's here, like come grab them." So it's nice, kind of give back. Let's talk about the grounds, like the pools, hot tubs, lazy river. What all is there like on the grounds to enjoy?
Plenty and plenty of pools. They have two main pools that are like family pools, one very large one and one that's more of a, it's got like the endless style where you go up to the edge and it's overlooking the water. They've got
Nice.
numerous different hot tubs. Two of them are again affinity style, adults only, right over by the beach lookout. They have an adults only pool, which is over off to the side. That's kind of their quiet pool section, I would say. And then they also have their own lazy river as well as numerous slides. And then they do have their own little beach area as well. There's multiple little coves in the Coalina area. So you share that beach area with the Four Seasons. But again, plenty of seating all out there, at least if you're out there early enough. The whole seating at Aulani is like a game in itself.
I was going to ask about the chair game. I feel like that's always a big topic on with these resorts.
Yes. So they have basically posted rules everywhere you go on the pool grounds saying at this time you can be in seats. At this time, you can reserve X amount of seats. If you are not in these seats for a certain amount of time, we're going to pull your towels and take your stuff, and those seats will become fair game. More or less, it is basically get out there early, get your towels when it opens, and then you can hold the seats for your family. If you're actively using them, you're good. If you don't use them, they are going to pull your towels and open the seat. Now, I never actually saw them like pull the towels. I saw them set up. Basically, they have a system for how they fold the towels on the seats to decide how long you've been gone. But
Interesting.
when we were there, it really was never an issue. We went out there early one day to get some nice seating, but we always were able to find something if we needed it.
Yeah. And then how does the beach work? Do you have to like go up to a little beach shack and like ask for chairs, or you just go out there and claim your chairs when you're ready?
You just go out there and claim your chairs. It is 10 feet from the Aulani area there. It's not far. It's the same game, basically. Again, down there, we didn't really have any problems finding seats when we needed it. But we will say it was off season. It was September. So that is not always the usual game plan for doing Aulani.
And does Disney have their own beach chairs, or Four Seasons people are using the exact same chairs and you're just kind of like mixed in with them?
They have their own. The beach is kind of split in half, and you can very clearly tell that's the Four Seasons side. I think they're completely different chairs and everything, and then
Okay.
this is the Aulani side.
What is the beach like? I know Hawaii is just such a dream and so beautiful. So tell us about the beach.
The beach at Aulani, I would say, is maybe a little underwhelming if you're picturing the waves and your traditional Hawaiian style beach. It is a little cove, and they have kind of rocks that keep the water a little more tame, which is probably great if you have younger children that don't need to be rocked and tussled around. It is, I would say, a little more manicured in the experience. The only thing that's kind of interesting is they run the canoe sailing boats in and out of there. So you do kind of have to watch out, especially if your kids are going to try to swim out a little bit further, because those canoe boats come in from the ocean there and they're like zipping along and they're just blowing a whistle saying, get out of our way.
That's hilarious. Is that a Disney excursion?
It is. I believe you can book that if you're in the Four Seasons as well, but the booth there where you can do other extraneous rentals, it is something that you can book. I think they need like four people minimum and they have time slots through the day. Because I did inquire about it. It was pretty expensive. It was, I think, $120 a person. And again, you need a minimum of four. So if you're trying to pay for your whole family to do it, you're looking at like $500 to make it happen. But it looked like some days they were running the boat out pretty much every hour on the hour. And then there were other days where it would just sit there.
And are they leaving the little cove area, or are they kind of just taking you around the cove, or are they kind of going elsewhere?
They leave the cove area. The cove area itself is pretty small. I would say
Okay.
it's maybe 50 to 75 yards out to where like the rocks are, and then it's maybe 50 yards wide. It's a very small little inlet there. But they go out and they'll actually go around the west side of the island because we saw it when we were out snorkeling on one of our little makeshift adventures we did. So it does go out pretty far. I mean, they take you out probably about 30 minutes out, 30 minutes back.
I know you guys left the resort for some excursions that we'll talk about, but in addition to the canoe, what else is there kind of right there at Aulani for people to do in terms of like activities and water stuff?
Yeah, so of course, plenty to just sit back and relax at Aulani. They do have a number of excursions you can book through Aulani. I believe they have some basic like snorkeling and catamaran type packages. There is a marina right out at the end of Coalina, and there is a snorkel company there where you can rent your basic like catamaran. I will say we did look into that, and that was pretty pricey compared to maybe driving a little further out to find a company that would do it. And then Alani offers a lot of kind of cool, different, unique experiences as well. At night, they have the storytellers, and it's just like quick 15, 20-minute stories. Either they call them the auntie or the uncle, come out with a ukulele. Usually, they play some music and they tell you kind of traditional Hawaiian lore type stories, and
Oh,
they're
I
pretty
love
cool.
that. That's so cute.
And again, 15, 20 minutes, pretty low commitment, and it's pretty easy to stumble upon if you're just there. They do a ton of different premium experiences. I can't even remember all of them. One of them I would love to do is they do it like a stargazing one. They bring out telescopes and then
Cool.
they show you different constellations and then again relate that back to how it is represented in Hawaiian culture, which is pretty cool.
Do
I'm trying
they
to
do
think.
like the movies on the lawn type thing like they do at Disney
Yes.
resorts?
Yep, they do a movie, I think, every night. And then they do, of course, character meet and greets as well. And then they have the upcharged shows and character experiences, as well as the what's the traditional like Hawaiian dinner show?
Oh, yeah. I was going
A
to ask you about
luau.
that. A luau. It looked like they do have a luau. I don't know if it's every night or like once a week or something.
I believe they have it a couple nights a week. We did not elect to do it. Again, another pretty pricey experience. I have heard positive experience from it back, but that might be more of a at your family's discretion.
Yeah, I feel like it could be something fun to like build into the budget just because it is so traditional Hawaii. I feel like probably luau's at most of the resorts are really expensive, but I had looked it up and it looks like there's a lot included. Of course, there's probably dinner and a show, and then there's like bracelet making with some fresh flowers, henna tattoo stations, ukulele, like all that kind of stuff, which I think is kind of cool. There is a character breakfast, I believe, which is pretty fun because I know that not all of the DVC resorts like Hilton Head and Vero, I think Vero just got
Vera.
one to come back, but I do believe like when people have young kids, it is fun to be able to like book one of those character breakfasts, so that's kind of fun. Let's talk about food real quick before we talk about you guys leaving the resort. What's the food like and what are some of the options for like breakfast, lunch, and dinner each day?
There are quite a few food options. I will say the food at Alani is pretty expensive.
I think Hawaii in general is just so expensive.
This is 100% true, but there are solid options within walking distance to Alani. So we did elect to do some of that, which we can go through. But they have all of your general Disney style food service. They have a quick service restaurant that does like poke bowls, and then as well as kind of more general breakfast. And then out by the pool, they have Off the Hook, which also has a pool bar, but you can mobile order a good variety of different lunchy type items, as well as different more Hawaiian, like seafood type foods. We did that one day, and that was actually very good. We did not do either of the premium restaurants, more because both of their premium restaurants are a prefix, and we didn't want to really commit to that prefix price because they
Yeah.
were both very, very pricey. And with the other resorts kind of nearby, there are plenty of other options you can look at. We did Mina's Fish House at the Four Seasons, which again is next door. It is a less than a minute walk. It's 30 seconds next to you. And that's like a premium fish house experience, which was fantastic. And then
Which you can order from like a menu though, so you don't have to like commit to whatever they're just going to serve you.
exactly. And we would do that again. We really enjoyed that. And then right across the street is that shopping center. There is a brewery that I believe is newly open that does food. And then Monkey Pod, I think, is kind of a fan favorite. I thought the food was pretty reasonably priced and decent quality over there as well.
What's that place? I
It's
don't know
called
it.
Monkey Pod.
Okay. Is it
It
like what type of food is it?
it is a chain in Hawaii, but they've got kind of a lot of general classic American foods, some things with kind of a Hawaiian twist. But I think pretty much anyone could find something on that menu and be happy with it. It's got a good kind of broad variety, but kind of a nice area. The restaurant's very nice. It's outside, open air. They've got music going. And again, it is just a little bit cheaper than eating on property for the 2 minute walk it takes you to get over to that shopping center.
Nice. That's great that there's stuff within walking distance, the Four Seasons and then that place across the street, especially if you're going for like a week. Sometimes it's nice to just like have a change of scenery, different menu options, that sort of thing. Okay, what about shaved ice? I feel like that's a big thing in Hawaii. They have it there at Aulani and then some other places. So tell us about the shaved ice situation.
So shaved ice was one of the things that I was like, there is no way that this is going to live up to the hype that
Yeah,
people
I'm not
have.
like a shaved ice person, I wouldn't say.
Me either. Like my impression of shaved ice is like the snow cone guy at your
Kona
pool on a
ice.
summer
Yeah.
day. It's like there is no way that this is going to live up to the hype. So we did not do the shaved ice on Alani, but I've heard it's of good quality. But we did stop at a shaved ice place. It was a chain. I'm trying to look it up here on my phone. Again, though, I was really like, there is no way that this is going to live up to the hype. So it was called Aulani's. Again, it is a chain. It can be found on a couple islands. And you
Wait, is
walk
it
in.
spelled the same as the Disney resort?
No, it's Ulun
Okay.
Ulani.
That's funny because it sounded like you said Alani's.
There are a lot of things that sound very similar out there because there's Koalina is the area of Alani, and then there's Koaloa Ranch, which we had also went to, spelled completely different, sound very much the same. But anyways, yeah, so you go in and they've got this like overwhelming menu of all these flavors, all these different add-ons, things like adding condensed milk over it is the thing. But then right in the center, they have like the hey, here's our like popular three combos. So I forget which one I had gotten, but man, exceeded my expectations on this.
That's cool.
I could not believe, like, I still think about this shaved ice. I'm like, wow, there's really nowhere you can get shaved ice like that around here. Like, it is truly like a solid dessert opposed to just like a snow cone. Like, it's really not
Yes.
a snow cone like you think of. It's like soft and fluffy. And then all of their like syrups and stuff are a little more natural. They're all like real cane sugar and fruit blends. So they're all like just really fresh and really refreshing overall. So yeah, absolutely exceeded my expectations on the shaved ice in Hawaii.
Awesome. Good to know. I'm sure there is so many great shaved ice places, but we will put that one in the show notes in case people want to know about the epic one that you went to. Okay, let's talk about some of the places that you guys left the resort for and did some exploring. So,
Yeah, so we really have two main ones, but we had planned on three. The three things we wanted to do is we wanted to do Koaloha Ranch, which I'll circle back to first. We wanted to snorkel, and then we wanted to do Pearl Harbor, which is the one we did not end up doing.
Okay.
So Ko'oloho Ranch is a private reserve, and it's most famous for being pretty popular movie sets nowadays. It got its kind of claim to fame as it's the valley in the original Jurassic Park.
So cool.
And then it's been used in pretty much every Jurassic World movie. And through the whole area, you'll see it was used in Jumanji, Lost, all sorts of movies. They were actively filming what we found out is the next Jurassic World movie while we were there.
Wow.
But there are all sorts of tours you can book for this. There's movie centric ones, there's Jurassic Park, Jurassic World centric ones. We have a Patreon Facebook group for our DCL podcast, and a lot of the members there had been to Aulani and had gone to Ko'oloho Ranch. So I had actually posted there like, okay, guys, there's all these tours. It's like, what's the play? What are we gonna do here? Everyone recommended the UTV Raptor Tour, which is basically little off-road vehicles. They fit 4 to 5 people each. And everyone said, this is the play. This is what we did. You get dirty, but you get to see a lot of the ranch, you get to see the movie sets. It's really like all encompassing. So I said, all right, we're going to book it. I told my family, I was like, this is my thing. This is what I'm booking for us. Like, this is what I want to do if we do one thing in Hawaii. And everyone was on board. And we loved it. Ko'oloho Ranch is absolutely stunning, absolutely beautiful. When you're over on like the Ko'olina and Honolulu side of the island, it's not necessarily like the picturesque Hawaii that you think of. It's not the lush jungles or any of that. It's a little more industrial overall, especially when you're doing the drive there. But when you drive up the other highway, you basically go through a tunnel and you come out, and it all of a sudden is the picturesque Hawaii that you think of. And you're up on this high
You
road.
start hearing the Jurassic Park music in your head.
We were playing it. We had it on. But yes, you just make this very picturesque drive even up to the ranch, and you get there and it is like just this big cascading mountain in front of you. And then they told us the UTV tour is the most encompassing tour. You get to see the most of the ranch. And it was, I think, a little over 2 hours long. You get very dirty, very,
Did
very
your mom
dirty.
like it? I'm trying to picture my mom on a UTV getting dirty.
My whole family loved it. We said it
Awesome.
was great. We said we would try a different tour next time. They have so many. On top of what I already mentioned, they do horseback riding as well. Again, things that are focused more towards different movies if you want to see that. But we really enjoyed it. You just get to see some of the most beautiful scenes that you've ever seen. Beautiful greenery, lush jungles.
They're like
Uh, you know,
waterfalls and stuff.
Not waterfalls. We did
Okay.
not get to see that, but again, like if you picture that scene in Jurassic Park minus the dinosaurs eating each
Yeah.
other, it is like that, and just absolutely beautiful. I mean, I have a ton of pictures posted from it. I'm still working on our vlog from that trip. But yeah, just absolutely stunning beauty. And then you get to stop at some of these different filming sites and movie scenes and take some pictures there. They tell you, oh, this is where we filmed this, and that. They have some sets still up and some are, more or less destroyed after they were done.
So
But
did
yeah,
you said they were filming the newest Jurassic World? Did you see like crew and people with cameras and all that kind of stuff?
so we didn't get to go near it on the tour, but when you're driving out the main road, you can see where the set and crew is setting up. And they're kind of the people hosting the tours like that work there. They're, I think, have to be tight-lipped about it. They're
Right.
like, oh yeah, something is being filmed here, you won't get to see it.
They're like,
But if
we've signed
you
NDAs. We can't really talk about it.
Yes, but pretty quickly you can figure out just through some Google searching like what actors or actresses have been seen on the island in the last week or so, and you're able to be like, okay, they're in this movie, this is what they're filming, is kind of how we broke that down.
That is so fun. Do you have to wear like those bandanas or it's not like that dirty?
So they provide you with the neck gaiters, and they also provide you with goggles as
Okay.
well as a helmet, which you have to wear. But all of that was pretty much necessary. Pretty quickly, we realized we were the last car, so we were getting everything that was kicked up behind us. You're in a convoy of basically, I think, 6 or 7 of those little UTVs. But it was fun. It was fun to drive around. Again, you get pretty dirty. They do have a wash station at the end. It's never going to get you fully clean, but you can wash your face off and get yourself a little bit cleaner before you drive home. But yeah,
Nice.
absolutely exceeded expectations on that as well.
Okay, cool. We'll put that in the show notes. That sounds amazing. What else did you guys get into?
So the other thing we really wanted to do, or I should say my sister and I really wanted to do, was snorkel. And we originally were like, okay, let's see if we could maybe book something last minute, like a catamaran snorkel type tour. And we wanted to do something that would maybe only be a couple hours, wouldn't take a whole day up, because we were enjoying the resort so much that we wanted to make sure we benefited from our time there at the resort, which is kind of a theme of how we tailored the trip and how we would retailer a trip for next time. So we kind of landed on maybe doing something ourselves, driving somewhere. And I had a recommendation from a friend who visits Hawaii pretty often because he has family on the island. And he said, hey, this is the beach where most of the catamarans actually take you. Turns out it is a minute drive from Aulani. It
Awesome.
is like right next door. It is called Electric Beach. I will say the beach itself is not pretty, and I'll circle back to that. But what we did, I did not have snorkel stuff with me. My sister did, and it was maybe not of the highest quality. And when everything I was reading said, hey, you probably need to be a substantial swimmer, which both me and my sister are. Me and my sister have both coached swimming. My sister actively coaches swimming. We were both pretty high quality swimmers from when we were young. But I did say, hey, it says here this can be rough. We should maybe go and get some fins. We found a snorkel shop that was maybe 15, 20 minutes away, super reasonably priced. Like I think we both walked out of there spending less than like $50. And I was able to get goggles, snorkel, and fins that I could all use again if we go back
So you
or on
bought it. You
another
didn't rent
cruise.
it. You just bought it.
I did buy it. Again, it was pretty reasonably priced. It was something I felt like I could use again, and it was decent quality. I forget what the name of the shop was, but it was pretty close. And again, everyone's thing was, hey, pretty good quality, decent price. So we drove there, drove back to this beach. It is, again, not a very big beach. It's maybe 40 feet long, but the allure is it's actually next to the Hawaiian power plant. And because of that, they have this big pipe that lets out warm water over into the ocean, and that attracts a lot of the tropical fish and the turtles right out there. So you swim out, I would say probably a good 100 yards out in there. So again, if you're not a strong swimmer, it may not be the experience for you. But sure enough, we do get there, and there's tons of people out there. Locals definitely out there. They do have a lifeguard tower with someone kind of overwatching, and I have heard of people needing to use that lifeguard assistance. And sure enough, too, catamarans out there with tons of people being dropped off to snorkel.
Yeah,
But yeah,
paying $200 a person, but
yeah, and we drove a minute and spent, $50, $60 on some gear, and it was nice and easy. Um, I will say probably during peak season times, that parking lot probably gets pretty full. It was full when we were there. There were people parking kind of out along the railroad track. So it definitely fills up if you don't get there very early. But yeah, once we got out there, like absolutely probably the best snorkeling I've ever done. Sea turtles, all sorts of variety of fish. And it's very crazy because it's kind of just like, okay, this is cool. Like I see some fish and stuff. And then you hit that warm water that's being let out from that electric plant. And it is just like thousands upon thousands of fish and things swimming all around you. It was very, very cool.
that is so cool. It's like a win-win too, because you get amazing snorkeling and you're in warm water.
Yeah, it really was. Like everything about it just worked out so great. It is something you would probably, again, need to gauge your swimming ability as well as the conditions of the water. But we were able to, go out there for about 2 hours. And then once we were tired, it was a minute drive back to Aulani, nice and easy.
That is so cool. I would probably get a life jacket. I'm a good swimmer, but it's just like more relaxing for me to float. But yeah, I'm sure there's so many great tours too for families with kids where they've got all the snorkel gear for you. You can jump right off the catamaran, you're right there, not having to swim all the way out. So that sounds awesome. I love snorkeling so much. I love sea turtles. I love seeing all the stuff snorkeling. And we were recently on the Wish, and I desperately wanted to snorkel out to the statues because I just think that's so adorable and cute. So that was my kids' first snorkeling experience, and they did a great job. We wore life jackets, but you have to swim a little ways out to get to those. And there's like not that much sea life there. There's like, you're like, oh, there's a fish swimming by Prince Eric. But so I was trying to explain to my son, I was like, This was more just to see the statues, but real snorkeling, you can see quite a bit more wildlife. There wasn't much when we did it on the Wish.
Yeah, that's a pretty typical castaway snorkeling experience. You go out to see the cool stuff they put out there, the old attraction rides and the statues. But
Yeah.
yeah, this was again the best snorkeling that we have ever done.
Okay, awesome. Electric Beach. Sounds great. And then you were going to go to Pearl Harbor, but what happened with that?
So Pearl Harbor was what we were going to do the next day. And my sister had already said, she's like, I'm out. I don't think I need to go to Pearl Harbor. And we did not book any sort of expansive tour. The only thing we did was reserve the like ferry that takes you out over to the Arizona Memorial, which is in the middle of the water. And that was like nominal. Like it was like $1 or something to book your time. So we had actually gotten up that morning. We were going to go. And my wife said, hey, I really think I just want to enjoy the resort today. And then my mom kind of looked at me. She's like, well, we could go have some, mother son time, but I would also be okay going. And I was designated as the driver for the week. I was kind of looking at it. And at that time, we were going to hit traffic. I was like, I'm going to be honest. I would be okay if we added it to our list next trip and we enjoyed the resort as well. So we decided to can that. I quickly went into the other room and grabbed my sister and said, hey, grab your stuff. Let's go up to Electric Beach real quick and we'll go snorkel for a couple hours since it's early in the morning. So we went right back up, snorkeled again, had a great experience, and we're back at the resort, an hour and a half, 2 hours later, and pretty much enjoyed the rest of that day just enjoying the resort amenities.
That speaks volumes, though, that you like of how great the resort is, that you were like, okay, we could go do something that I've been wanting to do, but this resort is so lovely that I'd really just like to spend some more time here.
Yeah, and again, that thought affects how we will rebook our next trip when we go out there for sure.
Okay, got it. And then the spa, did you guys venture that direction at all?
We did not. We had talked about it because we had just ran half marathons the weekend before. So we were like,
Right.
oh, that might be kind of nice. Again, was just another thing that we did not have enough time to benefit from. I will say they have a pretty nice spa setup because they have a outdoor, almost equivalent to like a rainforest room on Disney Cruise Line, have an outdoor spa area with your flowing water, your seats and everything. And that was right over where our balcony was. So we could see into that area and it did look very nice. And I've heard very positive things from people who have been on the show before.
Awesome. So, yeah, for listeners, just you can look into if they have like that day pass thing where you can enjoy the spa without booking a treatment or look up the treatment prices and that whole thing, because that sounds like a lovely way to spend a day at Aulani. Okay, let's talk about Disney touches really quick. I know all these resorts have a little bit of Disney touches here and there, and like the service and the cast members, just kind of what overall Disney magic is there at this resort.
Plenty of Disney touches for sure. There's definitely no lack of that. But I will also say that it is not overwhelming either. Definitely a lot of Lilo and Stitch, as well as quite a bit of Ulu and Duffy and his family, because the Asian market is really into that, which is kind of cool because you get a good mixture of influences of how the or how the resort operates from that, because you're getting people from basically two different continents coming to visit this.
Okay, I saw some of this in like my research and I am not a Disney guru. What is Duffy? It's like this like kind of worn down teddy bear situation.
Yeah, so I will say I'm not the biggest knower of the Duffy lore, but long story short, Duffy is basically Mickey's teddy bear. And
Okay.
then this became very popular, especially in some of the Asian parks where they go pretty crazy. So now Duffy has like an entire family. There's a female version whose name I don't remember. And then Aulani exclusively, they have a friend named Ulu, which is a turtle, which I do actually absolutely adore. We came back with a shirt of Ulu and a stuffed animal. Just because, again, it's one of those things that you're only supposed to be able to get there. You can get it at the Polynesian Resort here now.
Okay, cute. I love that. I didn't know Mickey had a teddy bear. How adorable.
I will say a couple notes. One, the resort in Hawaii in general kind of shuts down early. I would say by like 8 o'clock, other than food places, pools and everything closed. So there's not a ton of late night things to do. Like even the bar on the resort, I believe, closes pretty early. So it is really more of like an early rise, early to bed type of situation there if you're trying to take advantage. Now, it is still very pretty to walk around at night. I spent a night and went out and did pictures. Again, they do have the storytellers as well as things like the stargazing, which are pretty cool. But in general, like once the pool closes, a lot of the other areas close. People go home for the day, home from work, and really the resort becomes a little more quiet at
Okay,
night.
good to know.
You can get to some of the other beach areas. Like I mentioned, Aulani's on a little cove. There are other coves that some of the other resorts inhabit, but that whole area, other than the actual resort property, is technically public space. And there are signs saying, like, hey, this is public space. And also signs that say, hey, if you're here using the public spaces, don't invade on the resort spaces, but you can pretty easily get onto that area and kind of explore the Coalina and the different coves. You can also, if you follow, it's kind of off the beaten path, but past the Four Seasons, there is a path and you can go and there's some other private beach areas over there. Lots of people go there for like their sunset photos. A lot of families who paid photographers take them over there. When we went to go explore that area, there was actually two seals that were sleeping on the beach, and there was a
Aw,
naturalist there saying like, hey, unfortunately, you cannot get to the other pretty parts. You can stay at this one, but you cannot go within X amount of feet of these animals, basically past where she was standing. She was very cool, though, answering questions about the animals, why they're protected, why she was there, which was a whole other unique experience in itself.
very cool.
I will say there is, I forget what they call their like quick mart, but over by where I mentioned at Monkey Pod at that shopping center, there is a pretty big and pretty nice marketplace area. They have all sorts of different food. They also have various hot food venues like a deli. They have a specialty coffee and a sushi place. You can get like your poke bowls. And then also, if you have like knickknacks or trinkets that you collect from various locations, your hats, magnets, shirts, you can get all of that there for less than what you're probably going to pay at Aulani. Now, of course, they don't
Even
have
Disney
Aulani's.
themed stuff?
No,
Okay.
you won't get like the Aulani specific stuff. But we did find that some of the other little shops, and there's lots of little boutiques selling, again, anything you could
Yeah,
find
like
in
a little
there.
sea turtle trinket or whatever.
And there was some like handcrafted Hawaiian stuff that was at the resort that we found there for cheaper. Things like some candles, coffees, that sort of thing.
Okay, good to know.
I think the only other thing that isn't really a hack, but we did do grocery shopping. There's a Target that's like 15 minutes away. There's also a Walmart that's 15 minutes away, whatever your preference is. Some
I
people like
kind of
there's a
like love that and hate that when I get to places like Hawaii. You're like, oh, there's Walmart here. Like, of course, but you just like assume that it's all just like these local shops.
Yeah, so we did try to plan out a couple meals. Again, just like food anywhere in Alani, it is pretty expensive and it can sometimes be hard to find what you need because they only get deliveries once a week. And the whole thing in Hawaii is like that's the shopping day for the locals. So they show up on that day and they do their grocery shopping. If you show up on any other day, you are maybe not going to find everything you need. Now we were fine because we were just kind of makeshifting a couple dinners that we were gonna do in the hotel. Again, taking advantage of the kitchen. We did spend way more than we planned to there, but some of that was just silly impulses for sure.
Yeah, good tips. So you had mentioned that you might be going back and that you might do some things differently next time. So let everybody know what you do differently.
Yeah, so we are actively planning to go back in 2026. My mother was very much like 2025, let's go, like let's be back next year. And we were kind of like, slow your horses. We've got races booked, we've got cruises booked. Our 2025 was already pretty stacked. So we were
Yeah.
like, can we defer this another year? That would give us more time with the DVC points as well to bank and borrow whatever we would need to make the trip even more economical. Again, not having to pay for the room was a huge benefit for us. We really just had to pay for flights and whatever we spent there. But we did say we will definitely do a longer trip. Again, Hawaii totally exceeded our or my expectations. Everything that everyone ever really said about like the beauty of it and just like how great it was really exceeded my expectations. We were not ready to leave this trip, and we were definitely not ready to leave Aulani. As we said, we ended up spending much more time at the resort than we thought we would. So we definitely plan on going back for longer than the 5 days that we did spend there. We'll spend anywhere from probably 7 to 9 days the next time we go. And what we probably will do is book a different hotel for maybe the first like 2 or 3 days, pick our couple big excursions that we're going to do on the island, and then go and do those while we're at the cheaper resort that we may not want to hang around at. We want to go and do some hiking on the island for sure, and go up, see some of the North Shore. Again, go and hit Pearl Harbor, which is another reason why we did not decide to do Pearl Harbor. Was when we were there, we had already decided we're going to be back and we're going to make more time to do these things. So we said that can be deferred until next time. But then once we go and do those excursions, we will then transfer to Aulani, have more time to just hang out at the resort, maybe do things like drive to Electric Beach, which is right there, and do just things that are closer to Aulani while we're there.
Yeah. And just like plop down at that resort and take it in once you've already kind of done all of your activities. I think that sounds like a great plan.
Yeah, we had some friends that did a very similar trip like that with a lot of success. So we definitely think that is the way we are going to go next time.
Nice. Well, I'm jealous that you've already been once and now you're already planning another one. This is exciting for me because my parents' 50th wedding anniversary is coming up and they're, exploring all these different ideas. But this is one of the ideas to get the whole family to celebrate together somewhere super cool. But there's a lot of kids involved that would be like also very kid friendly, but also feel special. So I'm excited for them to listen to this episode.
Yeah, that is the other part of going back. My whole family was actually not involved. I have two other siblings as well as significant others there who were not able to attend. It was a whoever can afford it can go type of
Yeah.
situation. And the next one is definitely going to be more of, all right, let's get more of the family involved and get them over here so that we can share these experiences together.
Super cool. Okay, Lake, I end every episode with if someone out there is considering this trip, what is it about Disney's Aulani Resort that would make you say, just book it?
Again, I mentioned it before. While I think I had pretty good expectations of Hawaii and Aulani, they exceeded them. Hawaii was as stunningly beautiful as everyone said. The excursions you can do out there are just absolutely fantastic. Again, it was an absolutely beautiful and also relaxing vacation. It exceeded expectations in all regards, and easily I think the best Disney resort that there is.
Amazing. Thank you so much for your wealth of knowledge. And if you guys enjoyed this episode, he also kind of goes day by day through his trip on his DCL podcast if you want to hear more about his trip, because that's where I first heard about it. So, Lake, thank you so much for being here today.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. It was such a pleasure to get to come on and retell this trip. Again, we had a great time, so we are more than happy to share all of the fun things that we did and learned from it.
That wraps up another episode of Trip Tales. If you have a trip you'd like to share about on the podcast, email me at triptalespodcast@gmail.com and I'll add you to the schedule. Also, be sure to follow the show so that you don't miss any upcoming vacation destinations. And if you have an extra minute in your day, please leave a review for the podcast. It helps more than you could imagine. Thank you so much, and I'll see you on the next episode of Trip Tales.